DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by diehard Florida State fans and boosters, the Lemmix family in Pensacola, so cut them some slack for their Hurricane blend. No green and orange, and it's definitely not all about some random letter in the alphabet. It simply is a blend for those of you who love that strong coffee flavor without bitterness. DeLuna has combined two different South American beans with a Hawaiian bean. In fact, the Hurricane blend has won as many ACC titles as the school in Coral Gables. Try it or one of their other 24 blends and get a discount when you use the promo code WARCHANT15. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Warchant15, the promo code for that website. It's a great one. Almost as great as Warchant.com. Ultimate Seminole sports source. Our promo code, Warchant30. Use it for 30 free days of access to the website. Thumbs up button if you're listening to us on YouTube. You know the deal. And a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes. Corey S. Clark laboring with me on this Labor Day Monday. Corey, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. You going to tell everybody what time it is?
It is 2:38 a.m. right now as we begin this show.
That's right, as we begin it. Because we had some work to do on Sunday night, as you guys can probably understand. I'm not complaining, but if you feel like I don't have the normal pep in my voice, or maybe I sound a little bit drunk or buzzed, I'm not. I haven't had a sip of alcohol, but it's pretty darn late, even for me. Even for the great night owl, Corey Clark, it's a little late.
You know, Mike Norvell's changed my life. All these morning practices, I've been getting up, even on these last 2 days where we haven't had to get up early. I'm still like waking up at 8 in the morning, 8:30 in the morning without an alarm.
Nice.
So I'm a little bit drowsy right now. I think I'm also emotionally spent. 41-38, your final score, overtime. Notre Dame wins. Number 9 Notre Dame wins. I know I need to do a better job of producing the show and outlining what we're going to talk about and how we're going to go from where we're going to go. I don't know if I want to start big picture, little picture, good stuff, bad stuff, but just ultimately, Corey, overall, man, I'm so encouraged by how they played. I know we're going to drop the whole there's no moral victories. Mackenzie Milton said as much. Yeah, there is. I'm sorry, there is. This was different. This is different than any other loss they've endured over the last 4 years. This is a program that, quite frankly, hasn't had a lot of wins. So we can go the moral victory route because it is important to put context and to compare, I think, apples to apples with some of these games that have been played in the past and how they performed on Sunday night. I did not expect it because, quite simply, I did not see them practice like at a high level, I thought, consistently here the last 2 weeks. Then again, I don't know if they played at a high level for 4 quarters. But, man, they put 38 points up on the number 9 team in the country that I think has a pretty darn good defense. I know they surrendered 41, but that 41 did not look nearly as icky as what they did against Louisville and Pitt last year. I guess just from the jump, let's just, if you want us to be upset and mad and start raging at play calls and decisions, maybe we'll get to some of that later on. I don't have that for you, not because it's late at night. I'm just really encouraged by the way they played. Hard to think that a bowl game is our ceiling right now. That no way. This team's going to win more than 6 games for sure. If you hammer that 5.5, you're going to be living large.
Well, you look, it was very, very encouraging, I thought. And again, it's only a moral victory if you do something with it. Like if this ends up, if you go to Wake in 2 weeks and lose 41-21, then what good did playing Notre Dame? It's like, Texas got a real victory over Notre Dame a few years ago. The whole Texas is back overtime win. And that didn't do anything. So if this is a real stepping stone, which I feel like it can be, I feel like this team had already taken some steps, but now they probably believe in it a little more. Those recruits that were there probably believe in it a little bit more. And I know most of the people listening to this show believe in it a little bit more. And all that matters. So if you actually use it as a stepping stone to something better, then okay, you can call it a moral victory if you want. No matter how you want to label it, I think it was a very encouraging night for Florida State football. They had about a 12-minute stretch where they were awful on defense. where Notre Dame scored 3 straight touchdowns to open the second half. One after a Norvell went for it on fourth down, and Travis threw an interception, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway because it was going to be a turnover on downs. But, other than that, I really did think the defense, I know they gave up 41 points, but Florida State outgained Notre Dame. Notre Dame did nothing on the ground. That kid is a really good running back. And Notre Dame, I think, had 65 yards rushing or 67 yards rushing.
Not even 2 yards per carry. 1.9 yards, 65 yards on 35 carries.
Incredible. It wasn't like it wasn't like a Texas Tech Mike Leach. They only ran it 7 times. Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame, now look, they did go to more to the air than I thought they would. They even started, I think, the game in 5 wides. But they had a whole offseason to prepare for stuff like that. And that kid made some throws now. That kid put some dimes on those were the one that Brownlee, the kid beat Brownlee down the left sideline where he juggled it and caught it. And then, like 2 plays later, the kid on the other side goes up over Travis J for a touch. I mean, those were great throws. Like, yeah, you can tell Travis J he needs to turn his head around, and he does. He needs to go find the ball. He's too good an athlete to get mossed. He needs to be the one doing the mossing. He's also a freshman that's played cornerback for about 19 minutes in his life, so he'll learn. He was there. That's encouraging. But yeah, I think I don't know how you could be upset that you lost. That makes sense. I 100% get it. And we will go over some of the things late in the game because I'm sure people are a little frustrated or certainly wondering why the quarterback was the quarterback the whole time. And we can get into all that. But first things first, I can't imagine there were too many really mad, upset, or despondent people walking out of Doak Campbell Stadium that were Florida State fans, right? Like we all know what it feels like to just be depressed and like, this thing is going nowhere. This wasn't that. You remember that Notre Dame game last year. Now, they scored 42 last year. They scored 41 this year. But when you talk about how it looks mattering and it's not just numbers, well, that's why. Last year, in the first half, Notre Dame against Florida State had 20 rushes for 240 yards. They averaged 12 yards per carry in the first half, 20 for 240. In this game, it was 20 for 59 in the first half. And they rushed 6 yards in the second half? 7 yards? I mean, it's incredible. When was the last time Notre Dame was held to 7 yards rushing in a half? Like, that's encouraging. Florida State outrushed them by 200 yards. They had 260-something yards rushing, and Jordan Travis had 9. So it's running backs. It wasn't just fluky trick plays or fluky plays that Florida State used to run the ball. They just ran the ball.
Pulling guards, pulling tackles. It was like power
Trayshawn
football.
Ward is the truth.
Yeah, man.
Corbin, man, he's got a burst. Corbin and Trayshawn Ward had really nice games. Toa Feely had a couple nice runs too. Like there's some stuff there. So yeah, overall, be very encouraged. Don't be okay with losses. I'm not saying that. Like, it's fine to be upset after a loss because that was a painful one. I get it. But it's not always our job to paint with perspective. Like, come on, guys, you remember last year. It's better than that. I get that you're upset, or you could be. But when you do look at the totality of the program from where it was when they played Notre Dame that night and where it is now, the way that stadium was, it all just felt good again. Like it felt like Florida State football again. I know you can make a joke about a missed kick. It felt like Florida State football again. Like it was they answered the call in a big-time game with the whole nation watching and showed everybody how many strides they made, the strides they made. I think it was really encouraging, man. I really do.
They outgained Notre Dame. They had more tackles for loss than Notre Dame, more first downs than Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's
more penalties.
Yeah.
More penalties.
More turnovers.
That hurts. More turnovers, and that's why you lose the game. You can't. So the thing about Florida State, and this was where my column was what I was gonna write if that comeback didn't happen, was you can't. You have a little momentum. You're up 14-10. You get the ball back after you hold Notre Dame to a field goal, and you go false start. And it's like, okay, when is this going to be done? When does this stop? I know it's only game 10, but it hasn't mattered who the coaches are. Ball starts are just going to happen, and that was a little frustrating. The bad snap, the one that Maurice Smith had, and he's hurt, by the way. He tried to give it a go. He hadn't practiced much. He's injured, but he tried to give it a go in the first half, and then they went to Baby on. But the snap he made that Trayshawn Ward made a great play to go get it, so it wasn't a fumble.
Yeah.
That looked like I don't know, man, like a John Smoltz slider. I don't think I've ever seen a snap that far right. It was pretty incredible. He almost snapped it to Trayshawn Ward. It was like the Warwick Dunn play. And then the one, and we'll get into this later, but the one, the Baby-on Johnson snap to Mackenzie Milton on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6, when it was 38-35 and Florida State's driving in for what could have been the winning touchdown. And Mackenzie never got a chance to have a magical touch. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, who knows how that play ends up. They might not have gotten the first down. They might not have scored a touchdown. They might still had to kick a field goal. But I would have loved to seen it happen, and you just didn't get a chance because you snapped a ground ball right to them. And those are the things, the little things, that have to be corrected and hopefully will be.
But the thing that's crazy about that, Corey, is that they would have those mistakes that would compound on each other, but then they'd wipe it all out with a big play, though. Like, wasn't the Ja'Kai Douglas touchdown? That was on 3rd and long, wasn't it?
It was 3rd and 8. Yeah, it might have come after a penalty, too, yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that we would see at practice. Like, we would see these two, like, you're at practice. You're in your own IPF. How did you just have delay of game and a false start back-to-back in practice? Oh, but it's okay because Jordan Travis threw like a 50-yard touchdown in practice. And he did the same thing on Sunday night. So I guess that's another thing, too. It's like they did commit those mistakes, but they still somehow rallied to score freaking 24 points in the second half, 18 of them in the fourth quarter, and shut Notre Dame out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a great comeback, right? You outscored the number 9 team in the country. And I don't know if they're a top 10 team or a top 20 team. They're pretty good. They're a bowl team. It's a solid team.
Yes.
But maybe a very good team. Probably just a pretty good team. But, man, think about Jack Cohn made some of the best throws of his life in that game. Now, you did get a couple of breaks because the big tight end dropped a couple of balls, including one that could have won the game in regulation because they would have been in field goal range. You didn't maybe take advantage of that. But look, man, you can't. I would have thought if Florida State was going to put up 38 points on Notre Dame, right, that they would have had to play exquisite football, just incredible football. Yeah. They didn't. They slopped it up a lot. Yeah. They had 3 turnovers. They had at least 3 false start penalties. They had stretches where they looked abysmal, including the first couple of drives of the game. They had passes go 5 feet over guys' heads. They didn't play great, especially in the passing game, and they still put up 440 yards and 38 points against a really good defensive coordinator in a pretty darn good defense overall. And they got apparently Ronnie Lott playing safety. That guy was ridiculous. So yeah, overall, man, I think it's not like Florida State was hitting their head on the ceiling like this is as good as it can get. They left a lot of yards and points out there, which, again, very encouraging. And I thought the defense played much better than I know it is, like people say, the record is what it is. You are what your record says you are. You are the 41 points you gave up, or 38 in regulation. But, man, I thought the defense played really darn well for long stretches of that game while the offense was kind of shooting itself in the foot.
I mean, 21 of the points were off turnovers. So they weren't really helped out by the offense. And there was some, just the field position game was not friendly to them in the first half because the way that the offense was playing. So
right.
We definitely saw something different from a defense. Let's jump right into then. The thing that has me feeling most encouraged more than anything is the fact that I think they have a quarterback now. They brought this guy in, and he did not show anything everybody, I understand your angst. You're saying to yourself, if he doesn't ice his kicker, they win the game. If they don't do this, they win the game. But above all, if he would have started Mackenzie Milton, they would have won the game. I guess probably, right, Corey? I guess, right? Yeah.
It's hard to say, right?
Jordan made big plays. Jordan didn't make a lot of plays, but he made big plays when it's. I can't do it with the kid though. It's so hard to grade him and. Because he just does crazy stuff that just doesn't make sense. And then then all this time I'd be like, he's not as fast. We keep talking about him like he's Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson made from like leftover parts of those two guys. But they hemmed him up, man. He didn't do a lot of his sandlot football, make you look silly, run past you stuff. But he made 2 big throws, and then they were huge touchdowns for them.
Yeah, and that play, the throw to Parchment, I just don't think that, and I could be wrong, I just don't think that's a play Milton makes. But you know what I mean? Like you scramble to your left, it's not there. You break a tackle, you roll right, and you make a really nice throw on the run as you're trying to outrun a defender. That's a great play. Yeah. That's a big-time play. But maybe Milton sees something quicker on the same play and doesn't have to go scrambling to his right. Who knows? I do know that those, other than the Douglas pass, the two best passes of the day were the two that Milton threw. One to, I think, Ja'Kai on the sideline on his first snap, and then the one to Helton that I don't know how that was. I don't know what window he saw and what window that was, but that was a great throw and catch over in the middle of the field. But yeah, so I get it. Like Milton, what I was encouraged by when it came to Milton was he had a little burst to him too. Now he's not Jordan Travis, but there was a couple of plays there where something was taken away and he just scrambled and fell forward for 5 yards. Man, that's big time stuff. Don't second and 16, the drive's over. But he made it 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 5 or one of the best plays he made was on that bad snap.
Yes.
To get rid of the ball was an incredible play, because if he doesn't, then who knows if the Fitzgerald kick goes through to even tie the game. He did a great job to throw that ball away. So he made plays, man, and he is a competitor. You can see that. But I don't know that I would say that if he started, they win, because it was such a small sample size. He had 3 drives, right? They had a field goal. They had a touchdown, a field goal, and then a missed field goal. Those were his 3. Well, no, the third drive doesn't count because he started at the 25. No. But he didn't get a first down there. Now he didn't get a chance. He seemed kind of handcuffed a little bit. Like they didn't give him a lot of chances there to go win the game late in the game. But he looked good when he threw the ball. The little shovel pass he made to Darian Williamson. That's the kind of stuff.
That was Favre-esque. That was like a flick. That wasn't even like a shovel. That was just a flick.
That's the kind of stuff that dudes like him do, right? Like there was a pass that Jordan missed in the first half where a defensive end was kind of in his face, and he tried to throw it over the guy, and it ended up going out. I think it would have been like a 3-yard pass anyway. It wasn't going to be anything big, but it's the kind of pass where McKenzie Milton, because some guys just have maybe a little better feel for stuff like that. He would have thrown it around the guy, sidearm. He can throw from different angles. It's like a great jump shooter that doesn't always release it, but depending on the defender at the same exact spot every time, he has to raise his arm up a little more because it's being defended better. Whatever it is, they still can it's hand talent, as I like to call it, Aslan. And McKenzie Milton, that shovel pass was incredible, because at most quarterbacks that gets batted down or they take a sack. They don't even try it. And meanwhile, he fits it in there like I don't even know what he did. It looked like like a no-look. I can't even describe what he did. Just a quick pass out of nowhere from his hip that ends up getting 20 yards. That's the kind of stuff. That's what he can do. It'll be interesting. Like moving forward, I wouldn't be stunned if he starts against Jacksonville State.
It's over. He has to. If he's healthy, he starts. He has to. Listen, I understand. Listen, everybody, I'm not trying to we know what we're talking about all the time. We were at practice. We saw all the practices. We saw practically every single rep. I assure you. Now, again, I don't think Jordan Travis looked nearly as great as some people on the beat thought he did, but he looked better than McKenzie Milton. He undoubtedly
appreciably better.
He undoubtedly looked better than McKenzie Milton, and McKenzie Milton wasn't always available.
Yes.
So, and you can talk about the gamer thing, and I understand, and it proved itself out Sunday night, so that's why you move forward with him being your quarterback. But, man, imagine if you're on a car lot, and there's 2 cars, and one of them is like, all right, whatever, man, it does start, the engine sounds fine, but the other one, it's got a flat tire, kind of, backfires the engine, but once you get it on the highway, though, it runs like a dream. You'll be good. It's like, I got a long ride ahead of me. I'll take the one that seems reliable right now. It's hard to do a leap of faith and be like, all right, yeah, I'll take your word for it. I'll put this thing on the open road, and you told me it'll work better, so we'll see how it goes. But at the same time, they knew what they were getting with this kid. They went after him for a reason. They knew what they had in the quarterback room. They knew what they wanted in the quarterback room, and he kind of aligned with it. But he didn't give them a lot of reasons to think that, all right, man, he's going to be able to return to that kind of form. But the opportunity presented itself. It's a game of inches. I don't know if Jordan Travis, tightens his helmet strap by a quarter of an inch. His helmet doesn't come off, and he's still in the football game. I don't think he would have gotten the hook, but it happened. No. The helmet got knocked off. McKenzie Milton came in and just made smart, quick plays. He looked so much more confident and assured than any other point that we've seen him, other than maybe the spring game, where he just got the ball out on time. The guys out were open. It wasn't hold your breath. Oh gosh, like is this? Because I hold my breath a lot when Jordan throws the ball. It's like, man, is this going to go where he thinks it's going to go? And I think for whatever he didn't do in camp, and I try to get him to talk about that. Man, whatever Sunday night, small sample size. I think he's your starting quarterback moving forward, man. I just do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just saying that it was a small sample size, and he got 2 drives against the tired Notre Dame defense. Jordan Travis had 14 drives against, at least in the first half. I mean, they were really struggling to block those guys in passing downs, and they kept putting themselves in 3rd and 19 or 3rd and 14, and we know that Jordan Travis isn't the guy necessarily you want in a 3rd and 14, 3rd and 9, 3rd and obvious passing. You got to stay ahead of the chains, and they really weren't doing that. Some of it was his own fault, but some of it was just perplexing, false starts. But yes, the thing that, and yeah, I know there's no way Jordan Travis gets pulled. So he made it 38-28 with that great scramble throw to Parchment.
And that was a ball game there. And I like Notre Dame taking the timeout there. It was because they realized if they stop Florida State there, that's ball game.
That's over.
Yeah,
because he probably goes for it. So he makes a great play there. Yeah. And then he had, right before he came out of the game, he had his only run of the day. He had a 25-yarder down the left sideline. So he was actually started to look a little bit like Jordan Travis again. And then he gets cramps. He starts cramping, and then his helmet gets knocked off, and he doesn't see the field again, which is fine because Milton came in. And it would have been crazy if Milton comes in, throws a 30-yard, 25-yard pass. Like, all right, Jordan, get back in there. Like, you could tell the juice in the stadium too. Like, it made sense. I like Norvell's call there. Maybe you go to Milton sooner. I get it. I get that question, but then just remember that Travis's last drive was a touchdown drive, and then he had him out to midfield again after a 25-yard run. But I will say this, he didn't quite look as explosive as I thought he would. And I don't know if that's because he's put on a little more weight. Because
Jordan or McKenzie?
Jordan.
Absolutely. So
he did not look the kid that, like, and also in the first half, he seemed so close to like busting at least a 10 or 12-yard run, and then would be tackled by an ankle, or would spin into someone that he didn't see, or would choose the wrong lane, or get bumped around and not quite break free. There seemed like some lanes there that he just wasn't quite hitting, and then finally there at the end he busted out and had a run that I just would have never believed that they would run for 264 yards and he had 9 of them. I would have that he would average less than a yard per carry, and that Corbin would average 10. I just never would have thought in a million years that would happen. So, but the point being, if Jordan Travis isn't going to be the guy that can that's the scintillating athlete, the guy that can that's going to average 12 yards a carry on design runs, then yeah, it makes it I think a little bit easier. If he's not going to be a great scrambler, it makes it a little bit easier to go to Milton, especially because Milton didn't look that less athletic than Jordan Travis on Sunday night, and he made the throws he made.
And you mentioned in the stand-up that you did with Ira, the Warchant rap, check it out, everybody, if you haven't done so already. We thought so much of the run game was going to be because the fear and the respect that defense would have for Jordan Travis. But it wasn't a lot of RPO stuff. It wasn't a lot of read option stuff that just caught them with their pants down. Like, they ran the ball traditionally, like with a power run game, fairly well, and there's no reason to think they can't do that with McKenzie.
Yeah, exactly. So the Corbin run obviously came on an RPO. I assume it was an RPO. It was a handoff with Jordan Travis that went. Obviously, when Jordan Travis is back there, you are paying a little more special attention to that dude. And they had a guy always staying home because they remembered last year, so they had a plan for him. And so when Milton came into the game, I'm like, okay, well, here comes. They know that kid's not going to be a really. They don't have to worry about Mackenzie Milton ripping off a 70-yard touchdown. So it's going to start getting harder for the running backs, and it didn't. That field goal drive was almost all through on the ground. The one that came before the bad snap.
Yeah.
Like they almost got down in position to win the game just running the ball. Without Milton had some of those runs, but 5 yards here, 4 yards there. Again, it's just such a bummer, that bad snap. And baby, I'm not killing you, buddy. You came in and played well. You filled in. You ran the crap out of the ball with you at center. So I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but man, if just that one snap in that moment, if that's a good snap, I'd have loved to seen what happened because it just felt like there was a little magic to him there. But yeah, so yes, moving forward, the fact that how hard is it to judge when it's a Notre Dame defense? Like, what happens when you play like a normal defense? How much better does Travis look? How much faster does he look? But yeah, man, I just think that the way they moved the ball on the ground, even with Milton at quarterback, I didn't know they could do that. I didn't trust that they could do that. Now, it was in the fourth quarter, and they were tired, but still, now I trust more that they can do that. And if you can have a running game like they have or showed in that fourth quarter to go along with a kid that can make some pretty magical throws, then yeah, I don't see any reason you wouldn't give McKenzie at least more than 2 drives on Saturday.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
That's right. First one of the season, Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. I'm going to go with 10, man. Mackenzie Milton. Go listen to his interview, by the way. This will make you feel awesome about rooting for this team. 3 years, everybody knows all the injuries. He didn't practice the whole freaking time. You could say he played against a tired, worn-down Notre Dame defense. My guy didn't even really have time to warm up. He probably thought his night was totally done for, and all of a sudden, fourth quarter, no, we need you, buddy, and then leads you on to 2 scoring drives, puts you in the overtime against the number 9 team in the nation. Probably would have had the game win if we could have got that snap just a little bit higher. So his 129 rating, a little bit better than Jordan's, but man, Mackenzie Milton, he is my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week.
I'm going to go with a fellow University of Georgia. I guess he's not an alum because he's not going to graduate from there, but our man Jermaine Johnson. I feel good. I feel a little vindicated. I didn't want him to go out and lay an egg and have 1 tackle. He did not. Now, he didn't have a tackle in the second half, but they switched. They got that freshman out of there, right? They're like, Well, you can't do this. This ain't working. But my man, in his first half of his Florida State career, had 7 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. Yeah. Like, again, that's production they weren't necessarily getting at that spot a season ago. And did a really good job, I thought, on the run. Like, even though he wasn't making plays, he was setting the edge, even though that's not really his job. He did a good job of setting the edge. So, Jermaine Johnson, imagine what Georgia's defense could have done to Clemson if they still had him. Oh, DJ Ugalali, buddy, you would have been in real trouble. But either way, man, that was a really good to see. All those guys, Keir Thomas was very good too, but Jermaine Johnson proved why everybody was so high on him at Florida State. That was a very good first performance in Garnet and Gold. The
transfer portal, been friendly to Florida State, taking home both honors. Week 1, Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. All right, Corey, just to continue on the theme here of just being excited. I'm a cynic. Obviously, people know that. It's my brand. It's a good brand. Yeah. Business is booming. There is so much I was apprehensive about with this team. Everything. Like, even the head coach. I didn't know. Start looking at the fact that, all right, man, it's him. It's his offense. His offensive coordinator. Love Kenny, but ultimately I don't know how important Kenny is to his formula, his mix. Adam Fuller, obviously, that's the most important hire you had to make was him, your defensive coordinator. Didn't work out all that well. You can even maybe take it a step further with like John Papuchis. We know who they had or who maybe they didn't have to disrupt the pocket and the passer last season. And special teams was okay. They blocked a couple kicks. There wasn't a lot of great kick returns, punt returns that set them up on short fields that helped them win games. So everything was on the table. Like, nobody's job was safe. And I'd hate to say that everybody's job is safe now after one game. But then there was also But there was also the pattern that in big games, Mike Norvell's offenses did not perform well at all in the second half. I think against some of those games I know for sure some of the games against UCF, they hung on for dear life in the second half and then would fade. And I don't know how it worked out with them against Cincinnati, but again, man, they scored 24 points in the second half to put it into overtime. To see that happen, I'm encouraged by the way the defense played. I think more than anything, it's the front four. Man, if you can pressure the quarterback, if you can stop the run, two of the most basic fundamental things that we thought they probably had very little chance of, even with the transfers, we knew there'd be a little bit better. We'd hope. You knew it'd be better. I was like, hey, Josh Kando, Janaris Robinson, NFL prospects. Let's show them their proper respect. But for Jermaine Johnson to be as disruptive as he was, I think Robert Cooper's going to have a really good PFF score. I think he's going to have a really good PFF score. I can't wait to pull it up. It's 3:07 a.m. It's still not up yet. I try to pull it up. that stuff's going to travel. That stuff's not going to fade over the course of a season. And, Corey Wren got the ball out almost to the 40-yard line, and the kicker did all right. So I'll give Papuchis a little bit of respite. But now, man, all these big games left on your schedule, they're going to compete in them. And that is why I talk about the moral victory thing. Like, for a program that had 3 victories last year, you look back from 17, like your 4 biggest games, Bama, Clemson, Miami, Florida. You go 1 of 3 in there. But at least you looked competitive in 3 of the 4. Actually, all of them. You looked competitive in all those games that Jimbo played. 18, Clemson embarrassed you. You could put Virginia Tech in that, I guess, pod if you want to. But then Miami was a heartbreaking loss. Everything was riding on the Florida game. You come out and you look terrible. 2019 against, Clemson, you get blown out. You get blown out by Notre Dame back in 18. Like, all the big games on the schedule for Florida State, they had no chance. They got blown out, and it was terrible. It was just, you talked about the being despondent, walking out of stadiums, walking out of bars, just thinking, like, where are we going? I'm not scared of Clemson. I know this defense isn't Georgia's defense. I'm not scared of Clemson. I think we have a legitimate shot at beating Florida and Miami this season. That's amazing. That feels great. If you're a Florida State fan, those are the games you need to win, you want to win, and there's no reason that you won't be able to be competitive in those games. And let's just, I don't know, a whole bunch of people would have to get hurt for your season to come totally undone. Our season's been over the first week of September now 5 years in a row. That sucks. However, it's not. It doesn't feel like it is, even though you lost the first game. It just doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It felt there. Yeah, I know it was a loss. It would have been a lot. There would have been people partying on Tennessee Street as I drove by at 2 a.m. It was still active. I'm not gonna lie. It was still a little active when I was driving home. But yeah, it would have been a madhouse if they had won that game. But yeah, if you're looking at the future and just looking at the standing of this program right now, yeah, you feel a lot better. The 24 points in the second half against Notre Dame, the 18 in the fourth quarter, that's a really good sign. They scheme some things that are open. And you see some young guys that you're like, yeah, okay, there's something there. Malik McClain, I know he only had the one catch, but he showed some burst, man. Like, that was block, some serious burst.
And the block,
the block too.
Quayshawn Fuller went nuts that one series.
Oh, man, and 2 plays in a row. Yeah. Like, that was great to see, too. I thought Deloach was really impressive. I thought, he triggered that. You haven't seen that a lot lately. He had a play. I might even write about it later in the week. But the awful look, they gave up 41 points. Some of that is like we talked about. If you see guys running free, you can't blame Adam Fuller. You blame Adam Fuller for that. If you see a guy just getting out fought for a ball, what can he do? He can't make the play for Travis Jay or Brownlee. You got to have your guys make plays. But that first touchdown was just a ridiculous bust. And I guess they think Travis Jay should have gone with the tight end. Well, then who goes with the guy in the flat? Like, it's 4th down. So he's trying to keep obviously I guess you go for the guy that's not going to score a touchdown, but you had one guy to guard 2 players. That didn't work out well. And then the blitz on 3rd and 17, it seemed so obvious that that's what they would do. It was it was a great play call against that look. But I think Fuller's got to get accustomed now, and I think he did. He didn't do that a lot after that. But you got to pass rush now. You know what I mean? Like, you got to pass rush now. You don't have to dial up 6 guys coming to try to get home. You got some dudes that can get home by themselves. But on that play, which was I thought was the game-changing play until Florida State started the comeback, Deloach blitzes, gets close to the quarterback, close-ish, and then still turns his butt down and runs downfield as hard as he can, as fast as he can, and tackles that kid 50 yards downfield to save a touchdown. And then they end up scoring anyway, but like he said afterward, he's like, I didn't know that. I was trying to give our defense a chance for another stop. That was encouraging, man. I don't know how good Kalen DeLoach is. I know he's pretty darn good on Sunday night. And then, yeah, man, I think when you look at the team as a whole, you become positive about what some of the strides that have been made. Obviously, Jermaine Johnson was like a free agent acquisition. So was Keir Thomas. But they were really good acquisitions, and they played really hard, and they played a lot. And looking forward to the rest of this season, yeah, you shouldn't be scared of look, Clemson and Florida in those places is going to be tough. Let's just be honest. But Clemson certainly didn't look like a world beater. scoring those big three. They got outscored. Georgia's defense outscored them. They didn't look like a world beater. They're supposed to have all these great 5-star wide receivers and running backs, and they didn't make any plays at all. And that quarterback didn't look great. Now, again, that's a tough ask, but he didn't look great. And then you saw what North Carolina looked like, what Miami looked like, albeit against a phenomenal team. I get it. But you start seeing all these other opponents, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, Florida State's still going to be an underdog in these games, but they can hang with them now. They feel like they can hang with them, and maybe a break goes a certain way. Maybe the other team is the one that has a horrible snap. Maybe the other team throws 3 interceptions, and you come away and you steal, or they miss a field goal in overtime, and you can steal a win that way. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance late in games, and good things happen. When it's over with 9 minutes to go in the third quarter, that's depressing. You give yourself enough chance. You saw Notre Dame; they got a little rattled. They got a lot rattled in that fourth quarter. Stay in the game, give yourself a chance, and see what happens. That was all of it was encouraging. One other thing that was encouraging, I thought, Aslan, I'm going to use that word a lot in this podcast. That's probably the 9th time. 13. When he missed the field goal, when Fitzgerald missed the field goal, I was pretty darn certain Notre Dame was going to score on the first or second play. I don't know why. I had just watched that defense rally like it had in that fourth quarter, but I just thought, okay, it's going to be like that Louisville game from way back when. It's going to be one play, and that's a wrap. And Tirico's going to lose his mind and take off his pants. I know he wasn't doing the game, but if you guys remember that call, good grief. But anyway, and then no, they rallied up. Jamie Robinson had a great play on that tight end.
It lost yards on a pass
it was a -1 catch. That to me said at the end of the game, that defense played as well as it did the whole game. It played better at the end of the game than it did at the beginning. That's a real positive moving forward. And they played a bunch of dudes. Now, that starting 5 on the defensive line, the guys they rotate in, they're going to get most of the reps. But, yeah, you got to see Fuller in there. Jackson was in there some. All good stuff, man. Not all good stuff, right, but mostly good stuff.
And I imagine these players believe in this staff. If there was any doubt, I mean, they have to believe in them because it's the way they played, the way that they showed out. Shows you they believe in the messaging. I'm sure the recruits felt that environment, that atmosphere, and that's going to be something that they're not going to forget easily. All that said, though, Corey, as we sit here, it is a loss. They outgained Notre Dame, as we mentioned. They outrushed them by just an obscene margin. They had more tackles for loss. It created more negative plays. Why did Florida State lose the game then?
Yeah, the turnovers. I think Notre Dame's only turnover was a Hail Mary that the kid threw at 37 yards for some reason. I think he was getting pressured. But yeah, so like that's it. That was the only turnover. That's the difference. The penalties didn't help. But I think more than anything it was those turnovers. That was the difference in the ball game. And they got, you gave up 3 straight touchdowns. You can't do that. You can't do that and beat good teams. I mean, they almost did. But you got to be able to rally a little bit better than that. And once the offense didn't help, but once the offense got going and you saw some synergy there, the defense fed off the offense and vice versa. So that was good to see too. But yeah, man, and I guess you could put it to this, man. Jack Cohn was really good. Like he was good, man. He just was. Like if Hornibrook was their quarterback, Florida State wins that game by 2 or 3 touchdowns. That kid made some unbelievable throws. He got away from pressure sometimes and made throws. He had 2 or 3 drops. He was 26 of 35 with like 3 drops. He saw things quickly. He saw the open guy and got it to him. I thought Notre Dame fans should be, use that word again, encouraged by that dude because he had a great game. And not every throw was just to a dude wide open. He dropped it in there, made some throws right over guys' shoulders. So yeah, I think Jack Cohn having the game of his life, and he had to. If he just has, 2 great throws instead of 5, they lose that game. They needed every one of those to win that game.
So you're the analytic guy. You've got the chart. You got the sheet in front of you that tells you when you should go for it and all that kind of stuff. You're not bothered at all by the going forward on fourth down on your own. What was it? Your own 20? No, it wasn't your own 20.
I think it was like the 30-something. No, because in that moment, I don't know. If you punt right there, I'm not convinced that it matters if they have to go 70 yards or 33 yards. It just felt like he was trying to stop a tidal wave, and they could not. It was 2 yards. And at some point, you probably tell yourself, all right, if we can't get 2 yards here, then we don't deserve to win the game. It's one of those things. But also, I think a lot of it is the way the game was going. He needed to keep the offense on the field. You couldn't have another 3-and-out right there. Of course, they did. It was a 4-and-out. And then you saw Notre Dame just went right back down the field again. Again, though, like it's on their touchdown. Like, Steven Dix is there. Steven Dix just isn't as good as Kyron Williams. So I don't even give Fuller that. Like, maybe don't have Steven Dix out there in the flat with him. And Steven Dix has got to understand that you have the sideline to help you. You can't have him cut back inside you on that. But that was a 3rd and 7 swing pass where it was defended pretty darn well. And it was just they have a great player that made your freshman linebacker not look good. And that's how he scored. But no, I don't have a problem with that at all. I really don't. I think that's going to be common around. It needs to be. It was just, I don't know if Jordan Travis, it looked like an RPO. And the way Norvell looked after the play, it seemed like maybe the right decision wasn't made on it. Maybe pre-snap, or maybe should have given the ball to the running back, whatever the case is. Jordan did not, that was not a great play. And it ended up backfiring. But I'm of the opinion that in that moment, it felt like wherever Notre Dame got the ball, it was probably going to go down the field and score.
Yeah, I mean, their last 2 possessions, they went 4 plays, 75 yards, 7 plays, 69 yards. They both were touchdown drives. But, I mean, one of those was a interception kind of helped spring them on that one. Again, overall encouraged by everything. That stuff's crazy. I don't think he's I don't think this is like, oh man, he chokes in big games. He doesn't know how to call. He's a terrible big game play caller. That was just crazy to me. I don't like that stuff, but I guess I'm in the minority now. The game's changed. I have to kind of evolve. I have to find my Nick Saban in me and evolve and be.
Yeah, but remember, he did it a lot last year too. Like on some of their drives, they would go for it on 4th and 1.
Last year didn't count. Last year's a COVID year. Last year's stupid. I don't care about.
Well, a fair counter to that to my point. But yeah, so I think this is what he does. Now, I don't think he's normally going to be going for it on 4th and 2. He also now maybe feels a little bit better about his defense than he did in that specific moment. Like they had just given up 2 straight touchdowns. Both over like 70-yard drives, like you just mentioned, and he did not want to give the ball right back to them, so they could go do it again. And so that was his thinking there. I don't mind it. I don't know what the chart says as far I don't know when you should probably kick it there. I don't know, 4th and 2. But the way you were running the ball, that probably wasn't. It was a really bad play, and he had nobody to throw it to.
Well, the crazy thing is the next drive, you get the ball, you go 15 plays, 75 yards. They punt, you score a touchdown, they go 3-and-out, punt, and then you get a field goal. So,
well, in one of those, though, I mean, one of those was a 4th down.
I think it's hard to say, like, if Mackenzie Milton starts the game, do you win? I don't know. They end up tying the game and going to overtime, so he's kind of absolved by that. But that was just, I don't know, man. You made the digging out of the hole a lot harder than it probably had to be. But who knows? Maybe they don't rise to the occasion. I don't know. It's the butterfly effect, everything. But I still just can't wrap my head around. That was crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's probably where football's going, right? Like these, not at Georgia. Heaven knows Georgia's going to punt. Georgia could punt if Kirby's going to start punting on 3rd down, just to make it harder for his defense. You know what I mean? Like it was a great win. I'm excited that Dabo lost, truly. But, Georgia's offense, holy moly. But anyway, but with that, I just think that's where it's going. Like, you've got to keep up at some point. Like, you've got to keep up. And he thought at that moment, if they didn't score on that drive, he was wrong. But if they didn't score on that drive, and more importantly, if they gave the ball to Notre Dame after 9 seconds and his defense was exhausted, they were going to lose that game. He thought their best chance of winning that game was to get that first down, to give his defense a little more of a breather and hopefully go down and score to make it 4 points. Now, though, don't you think he has a little more confidence in that defense because of what they did after that?
No, he's got more.
He had three. They had three.
Hopefully, he's got more faith in his quarterback to not go wildcat 2 plays in a row before that. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that's just it. I thought when he did that was the telling hand that he had to go for it. Yeah. You don't go wildcat on 2 plays in a row, especially on 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 5, if you're not going to go for it. It just, hey, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. By the way, though, as we're sitting here and I'm staring at the stat box,
3:22 a.m.
I feel like I got a new nickname for the backfield, but it leaves out Toafili. But how about the Sean gone backfield? Because you got Jay Sean,
the Seans,
and Trey Sean, and they're gone. They're to the house. They're to the limo. Sean gone instead of Sean John.
I got you. Okay.
Look,
okay.
it is
Strong.
late.
It is
I'm
late.
trying. It's not the seagull. I get it. I'm still working on it. I think Toafili's going to be a bigger factor than he was on Sunday in the running game. He had 6 carries. Those 2 other guys had 26 combined. Oh, and real quick though, before we go, because we better be going soon. The whole icing is kicker.
Yeah, we have.
Look, number one.
That. Thank you.
Number one. Understand, because if people were in the stadium, they understand it wasn't like Fitzgerald was already starting his motion when the whistle was blown, and then he kicked a great kick, and his coach ripped 3 points away from him. The whistle was blown. They snapped it. He heard the whistle. He knew it didn't count.
It was a give me my warm-up kick. It was a give me my warm-up kick. Snap the ball. Let me get my warm-up.
He knew he saw they weren't rushing. The Notre Dame guys stood up. He knew it didn't count. It was just a warm-up kick. So you can't think that oh man, he took 3 points away. We have no idea how Fitzgerald would have kicked that kick if he thought it counted. Like you see that in the NFL sometimes. The guys will really kick and kick it as if it mattered, and then find out it didn't count. A timeout had been called. Fitzgerald knew it. He might have even told the snapper, "Hey, no, he wouldn't have done that because he wouldn't have thought Norvell would call a timeout." But when he heard the whistle. He did. He might have thought Kelly would have called a timeout. But either way, he heard the whistle. The ball was laid down, and he kicked it. And it was not a picturesque kick. It was a line drive that faded to the right, which is great. But let's not act like Norvell took 3 points off the board because the kid thought he was kicking a real field goal. He didn't. He just didn't. So it might be easier to make. It's like a guy shooting a jumper after a timeout. Like the point guard dribbles up, his coach calls a timeout, he shoots a jumper, and it goes in. All right, great, man. Do it in a game when it matters. So let's not say that, and nobody goes, oh, man, if Hamilton hadn't called that timeout, that 3 would have counted. That's not how it works. So I just think that to me is a bizarre reason to be upset about Mike Norvell. That he was trying to get his team closer to making an easier field goal. The kid kicked a field goal that didn't matter. And he was right. And it's crazy that he had to call a timeout for the ACC officials to review it. I thought they reviewed everything, Aslan. Why didn't they review it?
In real time, and that was the thing that kind of bothered me. I didn't try to tee him up to get in trouble with the referees, but in real time, I was like, that was totally incomplete. That was not a fumble. And then they're getting ready to line for a kick. I'm like, this is a 50-yarder. Like, challenge this thing already.
Right.
And who knows? Maybe he blew his leg out by actually kicking that warm-up kick. So maybe if you challenge it earlier, he doesn't even get the opportunity to do that, and who knows how it plays out. But I wish there was some more concrete sort of procedure when it comes to that kind of stuff, to where, like, as a coach, you're sitting there, you're waiting, you're like, are they going to buzz down? Like, do you know if they're going to buzz down or not? And they're not telling you anything. You're like, all right, timeout, and then everything kind of goes by the wayside.
Or just say you get challenges like the NFL. Like you have to challenge it instead of like this. It's been this way forever with college football because college football's dumb. If you want to challenge the call, you have a flag and you challenge the call. You shouldn't be waiting down like, okay, are they going to blow it? Is he in his ear telling him to hold on? Like, you should be able to challenge the call. Willie Taggart should have been able to challenge the call at the
2018 Miami.
Yeah, the Hard Rock Stadium in 2018. He shouldn't have to wait on some guy up there to buzz down. It's stupid because they only challenged it because Norvell called a timeout. Why does he have to call a timeout for you to challenge it? Give him another way to challenge a call without having to burn a timeout.
And, shout out to Ryan Fitzgerald for hitting. I didn't think that he was going to hit the one to tie the game up.
Yeah,
in the fourth
that was
quarter.
clutch, man. That was clutch.
He nailed it.
It was unclutch. Yeah, it was great. It was a great kick. So I thought he would have. The reason I thought he'd make the second one is because he'd already kicked the one that had a lot more. Like that was more pressure. Like if you don't make that kick, the game's over. Yeah. So that was a pressure kick and he drilled it. But that one, it was left the whole time, and it did not help. You can say his coach iced him. His coach was trying to move him up 12 yards. 50-yard field goals are hard. You saw how Fitzgerald kicked it. He kicked a line drive that might have been blocked for all we know if they were actually rushing instead of standing up because the whistle had blown. We have no idea how that was going to play out. But also, it would be cool if the referees didn't do the hokey pokey with the ball 2 times before Fitzgerald has to kick an overtime kick.
They even said, on the telecast, it's like, well, they won the challenge. Why is the ball not being marked correctly?
No, they moved it back. Yeah. They moved it up, moved it back, and then moved it up again. It's like, this is great. This is the 4-minute Saturday Night Live skit to try to place the ball. So, of course he missed it. And then the Notre Dame kid just drilled it. What are you going to do? It's a great kick. But it came down to that's how close it was. Yeah. Florida State was in a game against a top 10 team where it didn't even play super. And it still came down to 2 kicks at the end of the game. Like that, as opposed to last year when you play. Yeah, that's right.
We're back.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to somebody as we were leaving the stadium, and he was talking about how it was pretty cool, the ovation the Florida State team got as they left the field. Because it was a nice ovation. It was a really warm ovation. The people that left after they met with Notre Dame at midfield, they walked off, and it was a pretty nice ovation. And then it's like, well, that was cool, but it's also like, all right, well, now we're cheering teams for coming close. But that's kind of where Florida State is, right? Like this fan base saw so much yuck and grossness over the last couple of years. Last year too, man, that Notre Dame game, even that when they fought, but they averaged 12 yards a carry in the first half. You had no answer. They just made you look foolish. They made you look like a JV team. And then this year, they averaged 2 yards a carry. Like, man, that is big time. You outrushed them by 200 yards. That's literally unbelievable. I cannot believe Florida State outrushed Notre Dame by 200 yards. That's impossible to believe.
If you adjust for the sack yardage too, Florida State averaged almost 7 yards a carry. They 298 for 6.9.
298 yards, 6.9 yards per carry to Notre Dame's 81 and 2.6 yards per carry if you take away the sacks. That's incredible. That's incredible. In 1 year, in less than 1 year, in 10 months, 11 months, they've made that kind of shift on the line of scrimmage and the way they can defend the run, the way they defend the run, and the way they can run, even with their quarterback rushing for 9 yards when we thought for that to happen, he'd have to run for 100. So, man, that's when you want to see when you want to get excited about where a program's going, that kind of improvement in a year is that's where it is, right? That's where the excitement lies. A number 3 recruiting class helps, waiting in the wings, but that's where the excitement lies, where you see that kind of improvement in the year. The next step, clearly, is to get rid of the dumb mistakes and start winning these games. But getting in games in the fourth quarter is the first step, and they did that, and they almost won the darn game.
Look at that. It's 3:30 a.m. on Monday, Labor Day, September 6th. I think that breaks some sort of union rule that we're up this late working, so let's just go ahead and shut it down then.
Hey, let's before we do that though, we'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to all the loyal Wake Up Warchant listeners we met out and about this weekend.
I was going to thank them on the show the next day. It's too late. We're gonna thank them at the end of the show, but sure.
Some of them are going to be driving back. I got to meet Ralph. Got to see him even on Sunday night before the game. I saw the Lamoxon. Yeah. Apparently, Courtney and Stephanie are now best friends. Okay. So that's cool. Yeah. And on that, got to see Wes. Got to see everyone. All the pillars. Ray Pereira.
Ray Pereira's a real person, everybody.
I should have hung. He is, and I should have hung out with him more. I actually feel bad. James B. I've hung out with James B. James B's a very good guy too. He was there. But Ray Pereira I'd never seen. Kirk Knoll, my dog. I hung out with him a lot. And his lovely girlfriend, and she's best friends with Stephanie too. It's all coming together. Stephanie's like the glue, it seems like. But Ray Pereira, I should have hung out with him for like an hour and a half just to see what's the deal, man. What's going on there? You know what I mean? Just get a feel.
Just a dude being a dude. I met a guy outside Carlos that's been a long-time listener of the podcast when I was out there filming the Legacy Walk. A Larry from Nashville said what's up, said he might call in sometimes. He never does, but he listens to all the shows. Mike from Ocala, who's called in a few times, saw him. Some dude, Brian, who used to like be a culinary skybox manager at Doak, walked by 3 sheets of the wind at 1:45 in the morning as I was waiting for you and Ira. Yeah, it was awesome. It was an incredible turnout for the Libations Fest and the listener appreciation stuff. At least Saturday, I'm sure it was the same thing for you Friday for headlines. But it was awesome to meet everybody and just so appreciative of all your guys' support. We have a pillar. It's in my house. I have to figure out a way to put it behind me as backdrop when we do the live show, which
they all signed
Wednesday.
it.
Yeah. So
yeah,
Wednesday,
that was big time. Now
it will go down.
It just number one, I also think we need to mention the tribute they did to Bobby. I don't know if you got to see it because it was at halftime.
No,
I don't know if they showed the replay of it, but the marching chiefs spelled out Bobby. They played Amazing Grace for a while. They showed a video on the video board of all these old pictures of Bobby. Well, when he was coaching, and everybody in the stands had their cell phone lights on. It was really cool. It was really touching. I was like, man, are they not going to do anything for Bobby Bowden? Like, this is crazy. It was a really great tribute. I thought it was just first class. They did an awesome job there. And then our man Ralph. So Ralph from Hawaii, he was nice enough to give Stephanie and Shanna both a bottle of I don't even know what it is. Rum, maybe? I don't know. Some Hawaiian concoction. He's very nice. By the way, as I talk right now at 3:30 in the morning,
I forgot Mark. Matt
Oh,
AMC.
Mark, yeah.
Sorry. Looking at the pillar.
Got to see him both nights. That was cool.
Eric Angel, too. Eric Angel.
Yeah. So he got Stephanie and Shanna bottles of some libation. Okay. Right now, you should know that Shanna and her husband are sleeping 18 feet from me in one of my guest rooms, while Stephanie's sleeping in the other room. What a time over here at the Clark house.
What a life you live, Corey.
What a life I lead. But back to Ralph real quick. I got to see him at the tailgate. He did not sleep on Saturday night. He left at like 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning to drive up to Atlanta to meet a Marine. I think it's I know it's not a buddy of his. I guess it might be a buddy of his, but somebody he worked with in the Marines. And they went and visited one of Ralph's fallen soldiers who was buried in a cemetery in the Atlanta area. So Ralph did that because he would never have a chance to do it again because he's not in the South much. So he drove up Sunday to Atlanta, got there like 6:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, met his friend, went and paid his respects and his tribute to his fallen soldier, and then drove back and went to that game on Sunday night. So it would have been awesome if it ended with a win. That would have been great. But it's just I think that's just a really cool story and a good way to end the show.
You're right. Also, he wanted me to give a shout out, I think, to his nephew. I guess, we're just giving out all these sort of shout outs. This young lady is dating my sister's son. I should be able to read this here. My nephew's name is Peyton. So shout out to Peyton and his girl, Erin. I hope you're dating Peyton, Erin. If not, apologize for putting you on blast, but Ralph wouldn't lead me astray. Nonetheless, I didn't say that for the entire show until just now. I think we're going to have a Trench Talk live on Monday. I got to holler at Devontae, see how he's feeling, see if he's up for it. We'll try to do it. They're off.
He should be, right? He should. Yeah, but they are off, right?
Yeah.
They're off today.
Yeah. So Tuesday we'll get them for their press conference. Live show again with Devontae should be going down later tonight on Monday night. If not, you got the Jeff Cameron show. Ira, I think, usually does he still does his Monday hit, I would imagine. So that's 1 to 3 p.m. live here on Warchant TV, which is our YouTube channel, and 93.3 FM in Tallahassee.
Looks like it's Aaron Phelps, a distance runner, local from Childs High School. There you go. I did it. I think that's the only Aaron I could find.
It is.
So hey, if you're not dating that Aaron,
I didn't want to go all the way with all those details that you just gave, but yeah, that's what I was given. Yeah.
Correct. Sorry, everyone.
Wait, I don't know. I mean, what if she's like, I'm not dating him? Like, and you guys,
No,
like,
sorry. I just.
Yeah,
She's like, what? I've never even met that guy.
I'm not calling you a liar, Ralph, but I'm just saying in this day and age, we got to be careful with what we say.
Sorry.
I'm not trying
fault.
to get canceled. Anyhow, we'll be back with another show, I don't know, 18 hours from now or so. But so glad you all were able to listen to this or come out Saturday or go to the game and watch it. And just know it's going to be a fun season, everybody. I think we all feel better about where we're at. I'll feel much better once I put my head on this pillow. Corey, thank you.
Wasn't that a fun game?
It was.
Wasn't that a fun game? Wasn't that a team that you like cheering for? I mean, it was just a fun game. It's the first fun game we've had at Doak.
I like having a good quarterback. I think we have a good quarterback, too. That changes everything, man. No, I mean.
And a pass rush.
That's awesome. That's awesome, too.
I love you, man. I'm going to bed.
All right. He's Corey Mazal. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.